And Jean, are you on? Jean's going to take minutes. All right, thank you. Super, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, call the meeting to order. Roll call. All members of the board are here. Jean's going to take minutes. And we are joined by Guy Lovett tonight. Test of publication. I saw it on. Go ahead. I saw it on the website. Anybody else? Okay. So this is our initial planning meeting for our district administrator superintendent search, and I'm going to turn over to Guy.
Okay. You should have a few documents that that I asked to be shared with you. Did you get a copy of the community survey? Doesn't matter. I can bring it up on screen and I can share that document. So it won't be a problem. But what I'm going to do is I will share my screen to kind of get started on some things, if that's okay. And yeah, we'll see how that works. So I'm going to go into that. And all right, it says I'm screen sharing right now. So based on that, I've already lost one of my documents. Where did it go? I'm going to bring another copy of it up. Oops, that's a little bit too large, I think. Everybody see it at that size?
Yeah, it's good.
Yep, that's good.
All right. This is kind of the roadmap of what we'll run through tonight to get things finalized for the planning phase of the search. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the calendar and finalize that. We're going to talk about focus groups. We're going to talk about the community survey and whether you want to use that or not. I'll show you what I'm putting together as an initial posting. We'll review, I'll just tell you a little bit about what's contained in a district resource guide, because each board member will get a copy of a district resource guide. And then we will talk about the process for the first and second round of interviews. So that's kind of what we're going to cover tonight, plus anything else that anybody's got a question about. So unless there's any questions right now, can I just bring the calendar up and can we just verify that we're okay with that?
Yes.
All right. Oops, wrong one. Getting a little happy with my documents here.
Was this the schedule of activities in the original packet? Okay, yes. All right.
Yep. This would be the calendar that we're looking at, and basically tonight is the planning meeting, and I've got asterisks on this calendar in different places, and what those signify is those are nights where the board would need to be available. And the first one would be on the evening of focus groups, which would be December 16th. The plan on focus groups as we plan to do them is I would work with Jody and Jean and John on getting focus groups set up through the course of the day. And if we have to use some time on the 16th and some time on the 17th, that's fine. But I'll go through and I'll do the focus groups that you want. And usually then in the evening, I meet with the board, and by then I'm able to share kind of my observations of what I've learned from the focus groups. And there again, when we do the focus groups, it's the same set of questions for each group. And I just simply am furiously taking notes as I do that. When I get all done, I compile that and I kind of put together a summary report. But I use the information from the focus groups to do a couple of things. One, to help write the qualifications that's going to go into the district brochure, the electronic brochure that we'll put out with the application materials. And then also to be thinking about we usually ask 2 to 3 essay questions as part of the application packet. And sometimes the board has got 1 or 2 essay questions that they specifically want. And if that's the case, I will be sure to incorporate them. If you really don't know what you want, I'll put some together based on what I gather out of the focus group meetings. The purpose of the essay questions is to give you an opportunity to read how the candidates respond to some written questions. It gives you a little bit of insight into maybe how they think about it, how they put their thoughts together, whether they know that they've got spell check on their computer and whether they know how to use it. You kind of learn those things by going through and looking at those essay questions. So it isn't so much that it's got to be a particular question, but it's a way to give you a read on kind of how this person processes their thoughts and put things together. That's the purpose of the essay questions.
So Guy, I have a question. So on the 16th, first of all, that's our monthly meeting evening. We meet.
Then we can change that, and I can meet with you on the 17th.
So my question is, you'll have all the focus, your plan is to have all the focus groups done by then, and then you'll be presenting a final report to us. Is that the understanding?
No. Here's what I'll do, Julie. Usually I meet with the board last on the focus groups, though if necessary. A lot of times if I meet with the board last, I'm able to say off the top of my head or off of my notes, here's kind of the themes that seem to be emerging. And I'll do that once I also hear the board's responses. The report that I'll put together, you will get that as part of it'll be in your district resource guide when you receive it. But once we get the report done, I'll also send it to you, Julie, and you can get it shared out with the rest of the board members.
Okay.
And again, what that'll be is for each of the questions that I ask in the focus groups, there's just going to be all of the responses, and they're not going to be broken down by groups. It's just going to be, here's all of the responses I got to question 1. Here's all of the responses I got to question 2. But then I'll have a cover page on that, which will just be kind of an executive summary of what I gleaned out of the focus groups.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so again, if you've got your regular meeting that night and if you've got a heavy agenda and you don't want to do it that night, that's fine. If you're saying, yeah, we want to do it, but it might be 8 o'clock or 8:30, and you feel like you're willing to put in a little more time, we can do it that night. It'll take us about 40 to 45 minutes to go through the focus group questions. So your call on that.
Follow members, what's your thoughts?
I'm still not clear on what we're talking about what will actually take place on that 16th or 17th. Guy, are you saying that we as this group here on the call tonight will hone out the questions for the focus groups, or will you have already asked and formed these groups and we'll ask of them that night? I'm not clear.
Okay, Paul, I've got a set of scripted questions that I will ask. I'll ask the same questions of each focus group. So I'm going to back up a little bit. And here are the potential focus groups that we might be looking at. The school board would be a focus group, and I'm guessing you'll definitely want to be a focus group, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I talked a little bit with Julie, and you may have some internal candidates, so you may not have an administrative focus group because you may not have enough administrators to have a group, is my understanding. However,
you didn't hear that from me.
Well, I don't know. I've
Okay.
talked with, but anyway, teachers as a focus group usually you would have, and I'm assuming you're going to want a teachers focus group.
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. I would guess you would want to do a support staff focus group.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can do a community focus group, and of course you've been asked to pull some names together. So I'm working under the assumption you want to do that. There was discussion when I talked with Dave Lane about confidential employees. Do you have a small group of confidential employees?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what we
And
could
they
do
work
there
They
is,
work closely with the administrator.
okay, why don't I put this down? And you would want them, you'd want a focus group with them, correct?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, so based on that, now you could do a student focus group, but in these COVID time, well, again, it's your option whether you want to do a student focus group or not. What we do if you decide to do a focus group is a lot of times you might gather some, usually it's high school students, it might be some student council members, it could be some NHS members, it could just be a smattering of selected students. And again, some districts choose to do them, some districts choose not to do them. But as it is right now, you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'd have 5 focus groups right there. If you want to do a student focus group, that's really a board call.
Thoughts?
I mean, I think our students deserve a voice in this process. I think we saw that in some of our information just in the last few weeks that we've had meetings about, that they've had, you know, opinions about things. And I think we deserve to give them a voice. That's my opinion.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to, I'll check this one off. I'm going to go back to administrators. How many administrators do you have right now? If you were to count an administrative group?
4 total, including the soup.
Or
Okay,
including
well,
Dave.
we take the soup out because he wouldn't be part of it.
So we got 2 principals and the school psychologist.
2 principals and the school psychologist. Do you think you'll have any internal candidates?
I don't know.
I have no
I
idea.
don't know either.
Okay. That's one of the things we'd want to do a little checking on, because if any of them are looking to be internal candidates, then we probably wouldn't want to put them into the
Correct.
into a separate or into a focus group, because you don't want to end up really giving a decided advantage to an internal candidate over an external candidate just out of fairness.
Of course.
But there again, you can decide how you want to do that. And the reason we separate these groups is if we put teachers and support staff together, support staff won't say anything. And we know that from experience. They'll sit back and listen. They'll let the teachers do all of the talking, and the teachers are happy to do that. But if you put the support staff as their own separate group, they tend to share a lot of good perspectives. That's
So
kind
do you want me to check on the administrator situation, or what's our next step?
You could check. It would be a small group, but if you want to do an administrator group, we can certainly accommodate that. It's just a matter of setting up a connection and being able to meet with whoever that group might be.
Does the board have, what are your thoughts?
Well, it would seem odd to me to not include them if there aren't any that are interested, I guess. I mean, I feel like they should have a say as well. I mean, they would be working very, very closely with this person.
Correct.
So whether it's 2 or 3 is what we're talking about here, and why don't we just have that as a qualifier? If you're going to apply, then you don't take part.
Right.
Yeah, and it would Julie could just check with them and just
Yeah,
say,
I
are you,
agree. I
are you
agree with
thinking of
both, yeah.
applying?
Okay.
And that way, just somewhere along the line, you've got to confront it. And I'll talk about internal candidates in just a little bit, but I want to touch base on that. So on this one here, I'm just going to leave a question mark.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. So we are planning on conducting focus groups. So I can put a yes there, I'm guessing. Now, Paul, when we talk about focus groups, again, what I will do, I will meet with these people for approximately 45 minutes. I've got about 8 or 9 questions, and I ask the same questions of every single focus group. And so I will do a teacher focus group, and I'll have all my information from that. Then I'll blank out my questions, and I'll do a support staff focus group. And I go through and I ask these questions of each of those groups. And interestingly enough, then as I start to look through and think back on the day of conversations, some themes kind of start to emerge. And that's the information that I try to collect up that kind of helps with putting together maybe some key things that I might suggest to the board might be good in your qualifications. Now, the other thing too is if you as board members have a particular qualification you're looking for in your next administrator and you want to share that, I can put some verbiage around that and can build that into there, because when we do a brochure, we will talk about qualifications. And I'm going to jump around a little bit, but I'm going to bring up a sample brochure just to show you, because first of all, I got the calendar back up behind here. Or where have I got the calendar?
So Guy, before we leave this, I think I understand now. So
Okay.
what we were talking about to do in conjunction with our board meeting was the school board focus group, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I didn't that didn't
It'll be
register
your
somehow.
focus group, and
Our focus group. All right. Thank
Yep,
you.
and you might spend like 30 or 35 minutes doing your focus group, but then
Right.
we'll spend a little bit of time talking about what else I've heard. So we can do it later in the evening on the 16th if you just don't want to come back for another night. It's just up to you in terms of what you'd like to do. In today's times, I'm pretty flexible, and whether I do it on Wednesday night or Thursday night makes no difference to me at all.
I'd like to do it the same night. I just don't know how feasible it is with trying to schedule it. I mean, we don't know if our meeting will be done at 8 or 10.
If we're going to do this,
That's just going to be you. It would just be a matter of John sending me an invitation, say, we're ready to move to that. You can log on. And if it's going to be real late, you may say, let's move it to Thursday night.
Well, the other option is, since this is not open to the public, it would just be us 7. Could we do it before the meeting? I just throwing it out there. I know people have busy schedules. Just a thought. It doesn't matter to me.
I would like to separate it one of two ways. Either we do it before the meeting or we do it on a separate night. I don't think having it at the end of an agenda after the way the meetings have been going, I don't think that's good for any of us. I think I would like to either do it before the meeting or on a separate night. That's my 2 cents.
Okay,
Good point, Paul.
Let me recommend, based on Paul's comment, that maybe then we, if you wouldn't mind, come back the next night on Thursday. That way, if I need some time on Wednesday and some time on Thursday to get the other focus groups in, we'll have plenty of time to do it in terms of scheduling.
That's a good idea. Let's plan on December 17th.
Okay. And I'll just make a note on here that we're going to do the board on the 17th.
I can't meet until 7 o'clock that night. This is Jack.
On the 17th, Jack?
Right, not until 7.
Okay,
Any problem with 7 o'clock?
Works for me.
works for me.
7's fine.
Okay.
The only thing, I just want to let everyone know, it's not going to change anything, but I am on call for that week. So the board meeting and the 17th, if I were to get an emergency call, I would need to leave, but that is fine. Just so you know, Julie.
Okay, thank you, Shell.
Okay, that's good to know. But yeah, we'll just plan it for 7 p.m. on the 17th, and then you don't have to be worried about things and jamming it up. Board meeting nights are busy enough as it is. So we can work on that. Julie, you get back to me on the administrative group. And by the way, after we get done with all this, Julie, I will just send you a copy of my notes here.
Okay,
So then you'll have it to say, okay, here's what I think we're going to do.
okay.
Now, I want to go back to the calendar again, which may be behind here, or it may not be. Okay, go back to the calendar. So we've got the focus groups decided, and I'm just going to make a note here. Well, it doesn't matter. I'll leave it at the 16th, but we know from the planning that it'll be possibly the 16th and the 17th. Actually, what the heck? There. And I'll just make that in the final one that we know that we're going to do the focus groups on 16th or 17th. The essay questions and the final brochure would be posted on the 21st. Now, and I'll show you what I mean. By Friday of this week, we'll post the initial vacancy, and I'll just show you what it's going to look like. Okay. Can you see that initial vacancy notice?
Yes.
Some information I got from Jody and from Angie and various people that basically is just going to announce that you've got a vacancy. Candidates must hold or be eligible for a Wisconsin superintendent license. It says application process webpage, stage 2 application will be available. Whoops, better check that. Will be available on uh, 2020. Application deadline, is it January 31st? It's January 25th.
January 25th. You have January 25th on the calendar.
Yep, so I'm gonna change that. So realistically,
2020.
this,
2021.
21.
21 for
oh,
the application.
2021, yep, okay.
No, not there.
That one, not
Nope.
that one. The net, that
Yeah,
one
I
was
know, okay, good.
application. That's okay.
That's all right.
Here you go.
All right, I've got it saved again. So this is, if this looks okay to you, this is what I'll send to Sally. And this will get posted by Friday. Might get posted as early as tomorrow. But this would be the initial notice. And all it's doing is it doesn't tell them how to apply. It just lets them know, hey, there's an opening in Bangor. The other thing we will do is for anybody who has filled out what we call a stage 1 application with WSB. In other words, if they have let us know, they've submitted a resume, they haven't applied to anywhere, they've just said, I'm going to be looking for a superintendent position. And we've probably got, I don't know how many, we might have 100 people that have done that have said, I'm going to be looking. We'll send them an email when we do this opening that'll just say to them, just so you're aware, there's an opening in Bangor. Watch for the details because the formal posting is going to be on the 21st of December. Okay. So that's what we do for people that we know might be interested. So on the 21st, we'll post the essay questions in the brochure, and I'm going to pull you up a sample of one from a search we did last year for Mosinee. And okay. This is kind of what this brochure looks like. Now yours, of course, would have your Bangor colors on it, and it'll have your Bangor logo and stuff. It'll have some statistics about the district. There'll be an opportunity to talk about the school district itself. Then on the next page, there'll be a chance to talk about the community. And some things that, so on the district thing, you were looking at things you're proud of in the district, things you would want to call attention to, and the same thing with the community. And realistically, the purpose of this brochure is this is marketing to potential candidates, letting them know why they might be interested in coming to Bangor. So I've been working with Jody and Jean on gathering some of this information, and they're checking with building principals and other internal people on things to go in this brochure. Then we get to when I talk about qualifications. So we'll look through here, and this is what Mosinee decided they wanted. They wanted a person with great communication skills, somebody to be visible in schools and the community, have a passion for improvement of student achievement, be trustworthy and act with integrity. And then they put a little bit more verbiage to go along with that. But it's something that kind of captures what are you looking for. And there's two places where we can gather some of that data. But the big thing is I'll gather some of that by the questions I ask in the focus groups. The other thing, if you decide to do a community survey, we may not have the results back in time for that. But the purpose of a community survey is to kind of ask other community members who weren't asked to be part of the focus groups to kind of weigh in on what they're looking for in their next superintendent. And I'll show you a sample of what the community survey questions are. And then the final page of the brochure we put together, the electronic brochure, is the application process, where we let the candidates know, here's the application deadline, here's when applications are going to be reviewed, here's the evenings that first interviews are going to be held, here's the evening final interviews are going to be held, and then on down from final selection. And anything after final interviews, those dates are all tentative. They're simply placeholders. While you can do a site visit, most districts these days don't do them because you can do a site visit on Google to anywhere. And so a lot of districts don't travel anywhere and do a site visit, but it's an option that's available in a search. So that's what we do. And then we talk about who they apply to. This one here, Roger happened to do that search last year. So it said they would apply to Roger, and Sally would be working as a search services coordinator. So that's what we put together, and we would put together a similar electronic brochure for Bangor, but the real important thing is I need to figure out the qualifications. And I need to have these dates finalized because the board needs to approve those dates, because we're going to let the candidates know so that when they apply, they know that, okay, in the event I get called for an interview, I've got to be ready on those evenings. Okay. And then we also send the essay, or make the essay questions available at that same time, so that a candidate will submit their resume, they'll submit transcripts, they'll submit reference letters, they'll submit some telephone references, they'll respond to the essay questions. That will end up being their completed application packet. And what Sally does is, as those materials coming in, then she verifies with the candidates that they've completed their application process. And once we hit the deadline date, you'll receive those completed applications, or you'll receive a link to them where you can go in and look at all of those materials. And you'll be able to look at those electronically. Okay. So going back to the calendar, we've got focus groups taken care of. We've got the posting taken care of. The application deadline, it makes no difference to you, but other than to know that that's when it's closing. Closes at midnight that night. And interestingly enough, we hold to that, because I will get applications if it's like any other search we've done at 11:58 on the evening of the 25th. People wait till the last second, literally, to do that. February 2nd, then, which happens to be a Tuesday night, would be the night we would review applications. And the purpose on that is I will have gone through and screened through these applicants so that I am knowledgeable about who has applied. And we'll talk about that, and I will work with you on who you want to visit with. How many applicants can you expect? Well, I'll tell you, the number varies, but generally, if I had to put it into round numbers, we're seeing between 12 and 20 applicants for a typical search. It may vary a little bit one way or the other, but that's kind of the numbers we're seeing. We're 7-8 years ago, we might have been seeing 35 and 40 applicants. We're not seeing those numbers. But anyway, the purpose of that evening is to choose the people you want to interview. And a lot of times we'll try to narrow that down to a field of 6, or potentially 6 and maybe an alternate. Or in some cases, if you just have a 7th person you really want to visit with, we might bring in 7 people. That's usually then done over 2 nights. And in this case here, it would be February 8th and 9th, which would be the following week, Monday and Tuesday, when you would do the first round of interviews. We do 3 interviews each night. The second night, when you have completed all 6 of those interviews, we would then, at the end of that evening, decide who's the 3 people we want to narrow this down to. And we recommend narrowing it to 3. I think I told you this before, but we recommend narrowing it to 3 because invariably, if you narrow it to just 2, one of them will pull out on the day of the second interviews and you'll have one candidate. So that's what we'd be looking at is the 8th and 9th for the first round of interviews. Background checks would be done by the 16th, and we'd come back on the 22nd for the final round of interviews, and the 22nd would be a Monday night. So the critical evenings for the board would be February 2nd, February 8th and 9th, February 22nd. Is there anybody, have you checked your calendars? Has anybody got conflicts where those dates don't work for them?
I have a conflict on February 22nd.
Okay. Which is a Monday night. Does the conflict go away on the 23rd?
Yep, I could do the 23rd.
How about for the other board members?
Let me
That would
look.
make it Tuesday.
Works for me.
Works for me.
Okay, I'm going to change that. From the
Anyone else that, anyone it doesn't work for?
I'm gonna have a conflict on a possible conflict on February 9th, depending on what time, because I have a bank board meeting that day. But
Okay.
Joni, is the 23rd okay?
yes, I'm sorry, the 23rd I'm fine with.
Okay.
Okay, now there's another possibility with the 9th. I mean, if, again, we don't have to do these back to back, but we don't want to get them too far apart. So you could possibly do it on the 8th and 10th also if you wanted.
Well, Guy, if we're not going too early, I should be fine, because my bank board meetings start at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, so I should easily be done by a reasonable time.
Well, and because there's no travel involved, well, I shouldn't say that. There's travel involved for the candidates. But realistically, if they're interested in the job, they're going to come whenever the interview is scheduled. And what we'll do is, if we have to start a little bit later that night or whatever, we'll just make sure that one of the last candidates is somebody local. And if we've got somebody traveling from a distance, we'll put them early. I usually, when I set up interviews, I try to schedule them in such a way that the candidates that are the furthest away have the first choice of times. And I do that for their purpose. Now that gets to the next question. I'm assuming that even though we may, we may still be doing a lot of work virtually, I'm under the assumption that at least for the second round of interviews, but maybe for the first round of interviews, you'd like the candidates to come to Bangor. But let's talk about that. What are your wishes? We've done some searches where the first round interviews have been virtual. And the second round has been in person. We've done others where everything has been in person, even though some board members have been virtual for various reasons.
Well, I would think we want the final round of interviews face-to-face for sure.
I have not had a district yet who didn't want to do that. And as a matter of fact, I'll be real honest with you. I think we've done 9 or 10 searches. I think we've had one that did the first round of interviews virtual. Most people want them all face-to-face.
I'd say to get a good read of the person is the easiest and the best to do face-to-face. I would prefer all of the interviews being done face-to-face.
Yeah, much better to read body language. And realistically, what I do is when I talk to candidates about that, and even as I'm talking to candidates as they're applying, I let them know if you are selected for an interview, the board is going to be wanting you to come face-to-face. And I let them know that. I let them know that up front. And frankly, it's not an issue. I tell them we're going to respect social distancing. We're going to tell you not to shake hands. We're going to do all the right things, but they'd like you there face-to-face, and they get that. So
I agree with Shelley. Yeah.
I do too.
okay, so we want to leave the first round at the 8th and 9th.
I don't know if the 9th is gonna work for me.
What's that?
The 9th may not work for me. That's another meeting night. Anyway.
What
Tina?
about
Okay.
what about if we
about-
go 8th and 10th?
What about the 8th and the 10th? How does that work for people?
What time are we talking about here? What kind of can you lay out what a normal night would look like, Guy?
Okay, here, well, normally what we do is we schedule about an hour for each interview. You probably will get done with the candidates in about 50 minutes, particularly on the first round of interviews, and then you got a little bit of time in between. And usually what we'll do is, we might set it up and say, depending on what time you're meeting, but if you're going to start at, let's say you're going to start at 6, be 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. You might do them right on the hour, or you could do 6 o'clock, 7:10, 8:20, if you wanted to give yourself a little more breathing room. But realistically, part of what I'll do is I'll talk to the second and third candidate, and I'll let them know that, hey, if we, be ready or have your cell phone ready, because we may want you to zoom in a little early. If things are going a little faster, we may ask a person, because we're going to, we're not going to zoom in. They're going to be there. They're going to be there. Yeah. So I get mixed up.
It's okay.
Well, anyway, but realistically, then we'll stay with a pretty hard schedule. But we might say,
But if we're talking 3 a night, an hour apiece, Joni, even if your meeting starts at 4, I think that'd be pushing it for
Yeah.
you. And if Tina's got a conflict, I would suggest we split them up to Monday and Wednesday that week.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Tuesday's a good night. If it's for 2 of the board members, let's
No.
put on the 8th and the 10th.
8th and 10th. That's not a problem.
Is the
That's not a
10th
problem at all.
Is the 10th good for everybody?
Yep, it's good for me.
Okay.
And so we're going to be doing, I thought you had said 6 a night. So we're doing 6 total. Or we
6
don't
total.
know. Would we then have the 11th too then, depending?
What's that?
So would we possibly have 11 on the 11th for interviews too? We're going to do 3 a night.
Yeah, you would do 3 of them on
There's
Monday.
Monday.
You do 3 of them on Monday, the 8th. You would do 3 of them on the 10th. And then when you got done with your third one on the 10th, we would come back together and talk about the 6 candidates that we visited with and try to narrow that field.
Okay, so you recommend only to interview 6 candidates.
That's what I recommend. And if you decided you really had you're really undecided, you really wanted to do a 7th interview, you could potentially use another night, or you might decide to go 4 the first night and 3 the second night. Makes for a long first night though if you do it.
Okay.
And a lot of times though, if you've got 7 that you like, you might want to use one as kind of your backup, so that if one of the people turns down an interview for whatever reason, then we just go to that backup person and put them in. But we won't know that till we review applications, and if we've got to modify a little bit, we can, but
Okay, we'll plan on February 8th, Monday, and Wednesday, February 10th.
Yep, and I'll send you this, when I get this done, I'll send this as a final calendar to you, Julie, so you can,
Okay,
again, share it with the rest of the board.
So are we looking at, we picked dates here, even on this, the focus group, or the focus group on the 17th was at 7, but on February 2nd, did we set a time?
We didn't.
In these nights?
We did not set a time. Do you want to set a time for the 2nd?
sure.
You set the time. I'll be on the other end of the connection, and I can meet anytime.
6:30.
6:30?
I agree.
6:30 on February 2nd. Now, for your interviews, what time do you want to start your interviews on the 8th and 10th? You
6
probably don't
o'clock.
want to start earlier than 6, or what do you think? I think the latest you're going to want to start would be 6.
What's the earliest we can go? Joni, I think you're on the latest timeline.
Oh, I could do 5:30 easy enough,
Well,
if that helps enough.
You could look at, like I said, if you did that, you'd be looking at 5:30, and if you wanted to give yourself a little bit of breathing room, you could go 5:30, 6:40, 7:50.
Does 5:30 work for the interview times on the 8th and the 10th? For everybody?
Works for me.
Yep.
Yep.
Shelley?
Yep, works for me.
Okay. So 5:30 PM on February 8th and February 10th.
Yep, and when I put the final calendar together, I'll just put that in parentheses, so I'll have those times listed there. So that when you get your final calendar, it'll have that information for you on it.
Super.
And actually what I'll do is I'll send you 2 copies of it. I'll send you one copy that'll just have the dates. I'll send you kind of a board working copy that'll have the dates and times. How does that sound?
Thank you. Perfect.
Okay. It'll be, other than that, it'll be the exact same calendar.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Now, once we complete the final round of interviews on the 22nd,
23rd.
23rd.
On the 23rd.
He's got it on there.
yep, but I got a paper copy in front of me. I want to make sure I change that too, so I remember what I got to do. So that's going to be Tuesday. Okay. So on the 23rd, when we do the final round of interviews, one of 2 things can happen that evening, and it all depends on how that final round of interviews goes. You may have a clear choice by the end of the evening. You know, somebody may just emerge as, yes, this is who we want. And you got to understand, between the first and second round of interviews, we're going to have done the criminal and civil and educational background checks. You'll have some board members that will be designated to make some calls and reference checks on your 3 finalists. So you're going to have the information. And in the first round of interviews, I've got a whole sample set of interview questions that I can share with the board, more than you're going to probably want to look at. But the bottom line is there are going to be about 7 or 8, I think 7 different categories. And we try to pick a couple of questions out of each category, like curriculum, fiscal knowledge, personality, leadership. You try to ask some questions. They're structured questions. You ask the same questions of each of your candidates, so that you get a kind of a apples to apples comparison of your candidates. We advise you to not necessarily talk about the candidates after the first night, but take good notes, because when you do first interviews, I guarantee you the most memorable candidates for you are going to be the first one you visited with on Monday night and the last one you visited with on Wednesday night. And the rest of them are going to kind of run all together. So you got to take good notes. The other purpose of taking good notes is when we come back with finalists, you may decide, I like Bob here as a candidate, but when I asked him that curriculum question, he kind of stumbled on it. I would like to go deeper into curriculum on Bob. And Mary was really, really solid on curriculum. Man, she really had it nailed. But I'm a little unsure of her fiscal skills, and I'd like to go a little deeper on fiscal. So what I'm getting at is, in the second interview, you don't ask the same candidates of every candidate. You're drilling deeper into the areas where you'd like to know more about a candidate. And it becomes more, you want to do less talking. You want to hear more from the candidate in the second interview. So that's the purpose of the second interviews, and we'll talk about that as we go through. And as a matter of fact, between now and when we review applications on February 2nd, I'll get you those interview questions ahead of time. You can kind of go through. You can kind of pick and choose some of them. So that we can finalize the questions that night, and we'll have them all set to go for the first round of interviews. Make sense? Okay. And as a result of that, I'll make sure that you have the district resource guides by the middle of January. And as long as I'm talking about district resource guides, what the district resource guide will be is it'll be a 3-ring binder, which is going to have 5 sections in it. One section talking about the first interview process, one section talking about the second interview process, one section, it just has a lot of information on hiring practices and things like that. Another question or another section on negotiating the contract, and the fifth section being search documents. And what'll be in that fifth section is going to be your summary report from your focus groups, your summary report from your community survey, if you decide to do a community survey, and also we'll gather some salary and benefit comparables, and we'll have that information there available so that you can be thinking about what do you think you're going to put out as compensation for your new administrator. Okay, the last thing I'll say about the calendar, anything beyond final round of interviews. Site visit, if you want to do one, then I basically work with the finalist and we try to arrange a site visit. Final selection, these dates are just merely placeholders. They're absolutely meaningless beyond that. You could realistically, when you do your final round of interviews on the 23rd, it's very possible that you might, as a board, come together when we get done with the interviews and say, you know what, here's the candidate I like the best. You might set up a conference phone room or a conference phone in the boardroom, and you may call that candidate on their way home and say, we'd like to make you a job offer. We're going to email you a contract tomorrow. And another thing is you may be exhausted that night, and you may decide, well, we're going to come back tomorrow night and do that. It really, we really don't know exactly what'll happen, but generally, once you get by that final round of interviews, you tend to want to move. And if you've got a candidate you're wanting to get, you want to get that person before somebody else scoops them up. And also, again, with negotiating a contract, that can be done. And you may wait and announce the administrator at your regular March board meeting, and have the contract all tied up and signed and everything, and you just do your ratification at your board meeting. That's pretty flexible. Any questions on the calendar? Does this work for you?
The calendar is fine. I'm still stuck on this focus group thing, which is.
That's all right. Go back to it.
Have we defined, like, okay, teachers, that's a huge group. How many people and how do we choose them? Okay,
realistically, when it comes to teacher focus groups, we usually, a lot of times you might ask the administrative staff to select some teachers with the idea you want to get some representation from maybe the lower elementary, upper elementary, middle school, high school, get 2 or 3 representatives from each of those areas. Make sure you get somebody that's representing areas such as special education or whatever. And so you can put it together, and you can't include everybody, but you try to just get a sampling of people so that you can get some perspectives. And then ultimately, the other opportunity that people have, if they haven't been part of a focus group, is they'd have the opportunity to do the community survey if you decide to use a community survey. Or you may involve them. We haven't even talked about the second interview process yet, but you could involve them potentially, involve some of them potentially in the second interviews when we get to that point.
So do you have a maximum number that you're looking for? I mean, like, say, teachers and students, a maximum number that you're looking for?
Generally, we look at focus group sizes ranging from 8 to 15 people. You can do it with larger sizes. Matter of fact, I did one for a search I did where the community group, the board didn't want to turn anybody away. I had 29 community members in there. It was kind of a circus trying to get everything collected. I wasn't able to gather everybody's viewpoints because there was too many people. But we did the best we could with it, and frankly, they were very pleased with the opportunity to come and share perspectives and at least participate. But ideally, 15 people. But if you need to involve a few more people than that, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Does that help? You know, and again, in terms of who's going to pick the people for those focus groups, well, the board is selecting the community members. When it comes to the confidential employees, I don't know how many there are. Are there 3, 4?
Probably 4.
Yeah, we just need to know who they are so that they become their
3.
own group. Teachers is going to be a selection process. Your support staff, I think you've got about 35 support staff. So you're going to engage maybe a fourth to a half of them. And student group, you know, if you did one way of doing it, you could say, well, we want 3 freshmen, 3 sophomores, 3 juniors, 3 seniors. You'd have 12, or you might want to use upperclassmen. It's really up to the district in terms of how they want to do it and how they want to notify people. You know, generally, if it's a high school, a lot of times the high school principal might make the determination of how to do it. You know, unless the board wants to direct it, because it is your search.
Well, it's just, that's not very far away. That's why I was concerned with how we were going to choose them.
That's exactly right. So, and I will need to talk with Jean and Jody tomorrow morning about that, because we've got to get it figured out. So what are your thoughts in terms of teacher group? Comfortable with having the administrative team select some folks?
If we're going to add, if we're going to have the administrators do it, then we've got to answer that question that we started out with. We may have an administrator who's a candidate. We've got to get that read it out first.
Yep. Okay.
And I will do that right away in the morning.
Okay. Yep. And then once Julie gets back to me, we can go from there on that part of it. And it's a good observation, Paul.
I would ask if anyone else on the board has strong feelings either way. Am I breaking up?
A little bit, not too bad.
Okay, I would ask if anyone else on the board has any feelings either way to please say so now. But I think that would be the way to do it, is to ask the building principals to get a cross section from their respective crew.
Yeah, and even when they're asking, they don't know the questions that are going to be asked anyway. So realistically, it's kind of hard to stack the deck because they don't know what we're going to ask.
Lori?
I would agree. Go ahead. I would agree that if we don't have any internal candidates, that I think it makes sense for each building to do it. If we have any internal candidates, then I would suggest that the board pick for all of them.
And I feel like as a board, we should reach out to the teachers and we choose them, not the administrators.
You can do that, and the only thing is it isn't like it's an emergency to do it because they're going to come in electronically. It's going to be an electronic meeting. It's just going to be a matter of I'll work with John to get Zoom connections set up so that I can meet with those people like I'm meeting with you tonight to go through those questions. And sometimes in some districts they've asked who is interested, and then if they've had more people than they can do, they might go by building and draw names out of a hat and say, all right, here's the ones we're going to use from each building. But if the board wants to take that on, that's your call. It's just somebody's got to take the lead and say, yep, I'll be responsible for making sure that happens.
I think to keep it impartial, the board could send an email to all the staff. There are groupings, like there's a staff group, you send it to the staff group and respond to somebody if you're interested by this date and time.
Yeah, I think if we're going to do it for the teachers, then I feel like we should do it for all of the groups then, and then it's consistent. So, I mean, if we're going to decide to do it for one, I mean, we're already doing, obviously, the school board. We are all selecting from the community perspective. So to me, it just makes sense then if we had teachers in there, why wouldn't we just do the rest of them and then the board just do that?
So what
When you-
if 30 staff members want to be part of it? Then what do we do?
What you would do is you would say, we are going to put together a focus group of about 15 people. If we have more interest than that, we'll draw lots and we'll let you know who's going to be involved. That's one way of doing it. You know, I could try to do it with 30 people, but I'll tell you what, the focus group invariably that I end up getting the most notes from is the teacher focus group.
And I think 15 is I do a lot of focus groups too, Guy, and 15 that's pushing it. To have a quality focus group and get the information that you need and take notes and everything. So, you know, I don't feel like we should go above that 15 if we don't have to, because otherwise it is gonna be chaos.
Yep, I think we could limit it to 15. There's random number drawing things online everywhere. So we could do a random selection. There's a way we could do it.
Yeah, you can go to random.org and pick it.
Yeah, and you could put a note out to the people tomorrow, and you could let them know that you need to let us know your interest by noon on Friday or whatever. Because realistically, all we've got to do is be able to get in touch with those people and give them the time, and you can let them know that the focus groups are going to be held on the 16th or possibly the 17th. Because let's say, for instance, that the teachers are working in the building each day as well as the support staff, correct? They're the only ones in the building? But still, because they're working in the building, you know, when do you normally finish up for the day? 3:30?
I think it's like 3:09 or something like that.
Okay, well, so you might end up saying, okay, that at 3:20 on the 16th, we're going to do the support staff focus group. And at 3:20 on the 17th, we're going to do the teacher focus group. Now, without students being in the building, it's just going to be a matter of when will we engage the students, what time of day would work for them. And there again, that's too many people to put an email out to and ask all the students to do that. I think you just need to maybe look at that and say, you know, grab one of your organizations, grab NHS or grab student council and kind of work from there, I think.
Guy, do you find that, and I'm not picking on freshmen, but are they going to be you talked earlier about upperclassmen? I don't know what you consider that, if you consider that juniors and seniors or.
I consider juniors and seniors, but I tell you what, I've done focus groups that have included all of the high school classes. And quite frankly, the age doesn't make a tremendous amount of difference.
Okay.
I find freshmen, and sometimes they're pretty quiet. And when I did in-person focus groups, what we usually did to try to get them in, we'd usually have them come in at lunchtime, and we'd usually set some pizza out for them, and that got them talking. but we can't do virtual pizza right now, so so it's just going to be a matter of, and again, as we're talking to these people, we're going to let them know your time commitment is going to be about 45 minutes. So, but I would have to work with some of the administrators maybe on the students, unless you've got a better suggestion on that, because I don't think you can send an email out to all of them and then hope to narrow it to 15.
Okay, so I can send an email out to the teachers and the support staff.
Okay.
Let's see if anyone's interested. What do you guys want to do it differently? What do you want to do?
That's fine. I think to each group you send out, get a list of who's interested, and then yeah, we'll do a random drawing up to the number that we think is optimum. I'm fine.
For the students, just throwing it out there, what do you think of Jean and Melanie are our confidential employees? They know the students well enough, and with the groups, what do you think of those guys possibly putting a group together.
That could certainly work.
Yep.
Don't we have class representatives at every level on student council?
Yes,
You should.
Do we have 2 from each class
I
or
think so.
grade level?
The
I'm
only,
not sure.
the only question would be, has anything been done this year that I don't know about? You know, this,
Oh.
freshman.
Yeah, good point. That would be something to check into though, Paul, the student council.
Yeah, you might, if you had 2, now, if you had 2 on student council from each class, that would give you 8. And then you could also say, I don't know if they still do class president or anything else. You could maybe do that and you might be up to 12. There's any number of ways to slice and dice it, but it's just the idea of getting some representation from students.
Okay, so Guy, if I do the teachers and the support staff, who wants to take care of the students, or do you, Guy, or what do we want to do? I'll find out about the administration if we have any interim candidates. And I will send out an email to the teachers and the support staff. And I will tell them, Guy, 3:20 on the 16th for one group and 3:20 on the 17th for the other group.
Yeah, that would work. That would work good there. And for the community members, maybe I can do the community members in the early evening on the 16th, maybe at 5:30 or something, or whatever might work. You let me know what you think might be a good time, or maybe it works during the day for them in these times. I don't know.
For the
Julie, I'd be happy to do the student one if you want me to, and I can reach out to someone at school about student council and see
Sure.
if that helps
And I would like to know how that plays out.
with the students.
Mhm. Well, and I guess I'd love to know everybody, like how many people who signed up, how many are there 2 support staff and 20 teachers that sign up? And yes, I'd like to know what direction we go with the students too. Like, so if you call Lori and they say, oh yeah, this is what we have, great. If you could let us know.
Yep.
So we know the direction that's going.
Yep.
Yep.
And ultimately, as we get
I
these
will
lists,
as well.
as we get these lists of people that we're going to visit with, we're going to want to get those to probably Jean and Jody, and they'll relay it to John, because John will have to set up links to be able to, so we can send a Zoom invite out to those folks.
So Guy, you wanted us to bring community members tonight. I emailed you some.
You gave me some names, and you can email me the other names, and basically, again, what I'm going to do is simply get those relayed back to Jody and or Jean, and
Okay.
and eventually to John, so he can come up with email addresses, and hopefully we'll be able to. We should have email addresses on all of these people in the system, I
Yeah.
would think. But otherwise, they can get a hold of them.
So Lori, Shelley, Tina, Joni, and Jack, send me your names and I will get them. I'll compile them and get them to Guy
Yep, that'd be great.
for the community. Okay?
And
I
Julie,
just
you'll
had
have to.
Paul's in mind, so I sent him to get him off my list, but
Yep, and Julie, you'll have to give me the names of the 4 confidential employees.
oh, sure. Yep,
when
I
we
can do that.
talk tomorrow, so that I've got that.
Yep.
So, because I'm guessing we're going to talk sometime tomorrow morning, and I've got a 10 o'clock meeting. It's going to run till from 10 to about 10:30. But other than that, before that or after that in the morning, I'm fine.
So
So-
the only request was that if we put anybody on this list, that we have reached out to them specifically and asked to make sure that they want to be on the list, correct?
The community. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, but then they'll, as I told mine, I asked them, they said yes. And I said, please watch for a future email. And I told them about Guy. So,
And then Julie, if you can give me tomorrow or whatever, a recommended time that might work. We aren't going to get everybody, but I see you would know the community better than I'll know the community in terms of what would be a good time to hold that meeting.
so
Claire, if we are,
go ahead, Tina.
I'm just wondering if how many people we're putting on that community list, because if we're putting in 3, we're up to 21 people.
Yep.
Well, I only put in 2. Shelley just put in 2. And this isn't, you don't know if everyone can do it. They might be busy that evening.
That's why I want to have a list of 21, and I'm thinking chances are we'll end up with 15 or 16, and if the gods smile on us and we have 21, we'll do it.
Yeah. Guy and I talked about that already, because Tina, I said the same thing. 7 times 3 is 21. He said, we'll work with it.
Yep. That I'm not as concerned about. Whereas if you were 21 teachers, I would be highly concerned.
So
I just want them to be able to have, asking them to be on the committee, I want to be able for them, their time to be valued at that same time. That's all.
Right. I agree, Tina. So what, with that being said, what time as a community member would work best? What do you think? We're all community members.
A lot of people work till 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that I wouldn't do anything before 6 o'clock. Just to be sure that times are covered for them to get home or whatever.
Okay. Well, appreciated. Yep. So 6 o'clock, 6:30. Guy, what do you think? Your experience?
Let's go 6:30 on the 16th. How's that work?
So after I send you all the names, then you will take care of getting that email out to these community members.
Yeah, actually, I'll work with your
Okay.
with your administrative assistants on getting that done, because they'll have all the
So,
addresses.
and I'll try to get that to Guy tomorrow, because people, people like to know ahead of time and schedule their lives. So if you could
So
give
just something to
that'd be
keep
great.
in mind, if they are meeting on the 16th, if our community is meeting on the 16th, and they want to be involved in our board meeting,
Yep.
Oh,
need to make that
Exactly.
considerable too.
that's
Exactly.
right.
Maybe
Well,
maybe 5:30.
Yeah, that might work better.
Could Guy
Let's
do
do
the
5:30.
community? Okay,
5:30 for the community group on the 16th.
our board meeting, that's right.
That'll work. And then, let me see, the other one would be, okay, the students, we maybe can work that during the day, and even if students have to be excused a little bit from some virtual learning to join that, that could work during the day. And I'll just work with internal staff on figuring that part out. If we are involving administrators, I can probably get that scheduled, maybe around a lunch hour or something. We could, it's a small enough group, we can figure out a time for them. And the same thing with the confidential employees. We'll see if we can find a time where we can make that work for them. And would Jody and Jean both be confidential employees, or?
Yes,
Okay, so realistically, if I'm working with them, they might be able to give me a suggestion of a potential time when we might be able to pull it together
Yes.
for them. Perfect. All right, teachers, support staff, school board, community. Okay. That'll work for the focus groups. Community survey, I had thought I sent the template to Jody, and I thought she was going to send it to the board, but this is, if you would want to do a community survey, this is the template. And this would get posted on your website. It would be a link to the community survey. People would be able to read this. You'd have to put something in the paper or something, or some way of notifying people that this community survey is going to be going live. And then we just let them know it's going to be open until such and such a date. And we usually have it open for about 10 days from the time we officially notify them that we're going to do a community survey.
Guy, can you notify them electronically that it's available, or does it have to be in the paper,
Nope,
so to speak?
It can be electronic if you've got,
So we could do a Facebook post,
You
or
could
we
do it on
could
Facebook,
send something
yeah.
from JMC or something to that effect.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You could do that. It doesn't have to be in the paper. You just whatever way you're going to use to notify people.
Okay.
And
Just remember-
realistically,
JMC is only for parents, so just keep that in mind.
Oh, that's right. You're right, Paul. Sorry about that. Yep.
Yep.
Good call.
The other thing is, here's the community survey template, and basically what it does is it asks them to select the 6 personal characteristics that they would be looking for the most, and rank them, 1 being the most important, 6 being the least, and so they've got arrows here. Approachable, communicator, empathetic, flexible, honest, ethical, people-oriented person. So it's a quick and easy thing for them to do. And of course, by using the radio buttons there, they'd be able to put in what number they want to use. And right now, this is a PDF version, so that's why I can't make anything happen on it. Then they would go to, these are still part of that question 1. Then the next question, leadership style. Please rank the leadership style from 1 to 6. 1 being the most important, collaborative, delegator, servant leader, situational leader, traditional leader, transformational leader, and they can rank from 1 to 6. What type of a leader do they think they'd like to see for the district? Question 3, specialized skills. Again, ranking from 1 to 6. Ability to maintain a strong, here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, I guess. Maintain a strong and positive board administrator relationship. Ability to recruit, manage, and develop a quality staff. Child advocate. Demonstrated ability to work with elected officials. Interpersonal skills. Knowledge and experience in all financial matters. Media relations. Social media skills. Speaking skills. Team-oriented. Values diversity, visible and accessible. Written communication skills. These would be characteristics that they might look for in that category. Expertise, areas of expertise that are important. Are they looking for somebody that's budget is the strong thing they want? Or they are looking for community engagement? Are we looking for contract administration, contract negotiations, or employee handbook, curriculum development, personal management and evaluation? And then we go to strengths of the district. Here's an opportunity where they can talk about that. Academic achievement, the administrative team, community support, cultural activities, curriculum, family or facilities, the local economy, parent or guardian involvement, the professional staff, rural or small town atmosphere, school board, school finance, students, support staff. Things where they can put some rankings on what they think are important things there. And the next question is challenges. What are the, again, 1 to 6, select the top 6 challenges to the district. Is it attracting and retaining staff? Is it budget? Is it changing student demographics? Is it communications? And by the way, we don't have COVID on here. Curriculum and course offerings, declining enrollment. But it's an opportunity for the community to weigh in, to do some rankings on these things. And when they complete that survey, let me see if there's one more question. Demographics. Here's a place where they can check this if they want to. If they would like to identify themselves in the community survey, they can check one of these boxes. There again, sometimes we could either say check all that apply, or if you would like to have a little bit better read of where you're getting answers from, we could say check the one that most closely, or check the one that's most that might be the most or the best descriptor for you, because there are going to be people that are going to say, well, I'm a community member and I'm a district staff member. And I'm a parent and guardian. Maybe you want them to say, select the one that best fits, or you can leave it as check all that apply. It'll just come out in the report to kind of show you where the responses came from. And then again, just a thank you. What happens when they do this, there would be an electronic link on your web page. They would just click on that link. It would open the survey. They could go through, they could fill in the survey. When they get to the end, they'll hit submit. And it goes back to Sally at WSB. And the survey itself is done through SurveyMonkey. But realistically, she'll then prepare a report, and that'll go into your district resource guide. It's just more information that you're going to get from whoever in the community decides to respond. And how many responses you get may be dependent on how well you put the word out about it. And you may end up with 25 responses. You may end up with 150 responses. It varies. I remember doing one for a district up north, and it was a bigger district. It was over 4,000 students. And I suggested to them what they ought to do to advertise it. Oh, no, we got a plan. We know what we're going to do. So we launched the survey, and we got through the 10 days, and Sally called me and says, hey, I just got the survey results back on that district you're doing. I said, oh, good. I said, how many responses did you get? She says, 0. Not a 1. Ended up calling the board president and says, Len, what do you want to do? I said, you got 0 responses. He was just shell shocked. I said, well, I kind of suggested to you, you might want to advertise this a little bit, and you guys went a different way. Anyway, they relaunched it, and they ended up getting 350 responses. But again, that's a larger district. This is a really inexpensive thing to do. I mean, real time-wise, the amount of search cost invested in this search and report is probably $300 to get some data. So if you decide you want to use it, we just basically again work with John. We put a link onto the website. You decide how you're going to advertise it, and as soon as we put the link on the website, technically the survey will be open, and people could start taking it. But so let's say we had the link there by Thursday of this week, you could say the survey is going to be open through December 20th or whatever. And then when it closes, then Sally prepares a report. If you decide you want to do the community survey. Thoughts, observations, questions? What do you think?
I think it's lengthy. I think there's a lot of questions.
There's, I think there's 7.
Oh, it seemed like there was more than that. I'm sorry.
No, there's only, when you look through, there's only 7 questions, and actually the last question number 7 is demographics. There's just a lot of there's a lot of potential responses.
I see.
Right.
Yeah. When
But-
you
Lots
scroll,
of concepts covered.
But there's not many questions. There are 7 questions. So, and again, the 2 additional sections at the end are the 2 sections that ask you to indicate what you believe are the strengths and challenges of the school district. It gives you an opportunity to kind of hear from your public on what they think we do well in Bangor, and what are maybe some of the challenges that the district is facing.
I was going to say, I think there's value in it beyond this search. So if it's part of the package, I don't know why we wouldn't do it.
Yep.
I think we can put it in the paper of record like we would post a meeting. We can put something in Monroe County paper. We can post it in the banks and the post offices and so on. And then to Lori's point, we get it on the the Facebook page, our website, and then let social media do its thing.
Sure. And again, you're right, Paul. It's a really inexpensive way to gather some data that'll go beyond your search. So I'll assume you're going to want to use that.
I say yes. Anyone against it? Or any other thoughts?
I don't know why we wouldn't do it. I think it's important.
Okay. Okay, in terms of vacancy posting issues, I don't see any because I've told you we're gonna get the position initially posted. It might be as soon as tomorrow, but it'll certainly be by the end of the week. The resource guide contents, I've kind of reviewed those with you, and I've got a note that I'm going to try to get you the resource guides by around mid-January. Give you time to go through, and I will talk to Julie beforehand about the section that has all of the interview questions in for the first round of interviews, so you guys can be thinking about how you want to narrow down questions you might want to ask. And you're not limited to just the questions in that resource guide. You've got a lot of smart people on the board. If you've got a particular question you want to ask, we'll incorporate it into the questions. I'm just providing these to give you some ideas. And discussing the process for first and second round interviews. Now, first round of interviews is normally just the board. Is that kind of what you want to stay with? Board interviews the first 6 candidates. Now, if you want to invite anybody else in to observe that, you're welcome to do that. And again, this is not WSB's search. This is Bangor's search. So how would you like to do your first interviews?
Well, who would it be if not just the board guy?
Well, in most cases, in 90% of the searches, it's just the board. I have worked with a couple of districts that maybe had the administrative team sit in the audience, or maybe had some of the confidential employees sit in the audience. They didn't actually participate in the interview. They were able to listen in. Now, the only thing about it is we normally don't release the names of finalists until you get down to your 3 final candidates. However, if there is a request for the names of the 6 candidates to be released, we'd be obligated to do that. Sometimes when candidates are aware of that, that may scare them away from applying, but certainly they know that when they get to finalists, that they're going to be named. And if I feel like there's a good chance that 6 names might go out, I always let the candidates know that, because sometimes candidates don't necessarily let their board know that they're interviewing until they get to the finalist stage, and it gets a little embarrassing when they get a phone call because they were one of 6 chosen, or when it's in the paper or on the radio that they were one of 6 chosen and nobody on the board knows.
Right.
And so I usually try to keep them from embarrassing themselves, because it has happened.
I think for the first interviews, it should just be us.
Keeps it the most confidential.
That's what my gut instinct tells me.
I would say it should just be us for the
On second interviews. Some boards decide they're just going to do it all themselves because you are the decision makers. If you invite other groups in for the second round of interviews, let's say that you decide you're going to have a group of staff members, maybe staff members and an administrator or something, that's going to also interview the candidates. They'll be doing more like a first round of interviews because they haven't seen the people before. And you'll probably only share with them the resume and the letter of interest from the candidate. You won't share all of that information that you have necessarily. And we then let that group know you're going to have a chance to interview, but at the end of the night, then the board will ask 1 or 2 representatives of your group to come in and just share your thoughts on the candidates. But I tell them, but please understand, the hiring decision belongs to the board. By statute, a board is obligated to hire their administrator. They're inviting you in for some input, but they have to make the decision. You don't make the decision, but they're going to ask you for your input. And the same thing if you did you could do a community forum, which would be a kind of an electronic community forum. We could facilitate that. So we don't have to finalize this decision tonight. We can actually wait and do this the night that we review applications. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about what you want to do, because it makes a difference. If it's going to be just the board for both rounds, then we would have the candidates come in at staggered times for the second round of interviews. If you're going to do a round robin process where one candidate's going to be with the board, another candidate's going to be with a teacher group, and a third candidate is going to be in an electronic community forum. Then they've all got to be there at the beginning, and then they just rotate from room to room.
Julie or Paul, do you recall what you did the last time? Were you on the board when we hired Dave?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just the board
Both throughout?
for first and second. Yep.
And there's no right or wrong way about it. You as the board make the decision, and if that's what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. So.
I think we should allow for more community input in some way, whether it's a community forum, they can ask questions. They have open times with the candidates. I've seen lots of things done. I'm sure you have too, guys.
Yep, and when we've done these electronic community forums, so some way of doing that is, we might engage the community by letting people email questions to the district office ahead of time that they'd like to see asked. The candidate could be moved into another room in the school, could be put in front of a camera. I would be on a Zoom connection with that person. I would ask questions. And I think John said you guys use a YouTube channel or whatever. So then the questions and answers would be live streamed over the YouTube channel where anybody in the community could hear the candidate responses. So that's how you would do a virtual public forum. And I've even done virtual public forums where through the use of the chat box, I've gotten live questions being sent to me as I've been asking questions, and I've just kind of modified things and tried to do as many of those questions as I can.
So on a public forum like that, then anybody and everybody through the district can email you questions and things like that. You had talked about a roundtable rotating.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is if we did a roundtable rotating, the board is interviewing candidate A at 5:30.
Right, I understand the concept of the roundtable. My question is, in the community is emailing in these questions, you're asking them, how does the information get relayed to us? We're not there when that's happening. We're in an interview with the candidate B, who's giving their thoughts and synopsis of what happened in that community meeting.
Two ways of doing that. That's a good question. Two ways of doing it, and we've done it both ways. One, I would be asking the questions, so I would be sharing data with the board afterwards because you weren't there. The other possibility is that because it's being done on your YouTube channel, it could be recorded, and you could sit down as board members and watch it the next morning. As a tape delay, so you'd have the opportunity to see how they performed in the public forum.
Sure.
And in doing that, then you might say, well, we're not going to then make our final decision that night. We're going to come back the next night and talk about it so that we have the chance to view the candidate's performance in the virtual public forum.
Sure.
And who knows? I mean, maybe we'll be at a point where we can do more things live by then. But based on what I'm hearing from the medical experts and stuff, I don't think there's going to be enough vaccine out. I don't think things are going to change enough that quickly. But if they do, go ahead.
So Guy, when you talked about the first round of interviews, I believe you said 90% of schools just do it with the board.
Yes.
Can you put a percentage on round two? Who does what? Because I'll tell you, I'm concerned a little bit that, ultimately the board has the hiring decision, as you said, and ultimately we have to make a decision. We can't do everything by public referendum.
You can't. No.
I think we're trying to pack too much into this. We've got a community survey, we've got focus groups. At some point, the board has to make a decision, and so I would like to understand from your experience how many, give us a feel for what other schools are doing.
Well, nearly every district does a certain number of focus groups. Most districts do the community survey because it's another touch point that gives people an opportunity to provide a perspective. Public forums, I would say, when we were doing live public forums, 60, 70% of the districts use some type of a round robin approach where they might have a board interview team for the second interview, another interview team that could be a combination of whatever the board wants, and that public forum option. But again, there are, just as you said, Paul, there are some districts where they just say, this is a board function. We are going to ask for some community input through the focus groups. We are going to ask for some community input through the community surveys. And then we're going to do our due diligence. We're going to do our work as a board, and we're going to make this decision. So, because you're right, at the end of the day, you are the hiring body, and you've got to find somebody that you think is going to represent the best fit for you as the governing board, and also the best fit for where the district is headed. And again, this is not a decision. I'll say it again. This decision does not have to be finalized tonight, but I wanted to have the conversation tonight so that you're thinking about it.
Thank you.
Any other questions that I haven't touched on?
Can you go back?
I've taken a lot of time, but I hope it's been time well spent for you.
Can you go back to the vacancy posting?
Sure. You want to look at it?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the initial posting. And this is pretty typical when we put things on the web page. This is a pretty standard first posting, because all we're doing at this point in time is giving some people some very basic information about the district, and letting them know when they can expect that stage 2 information and that application process is going to be available to them. So the real critical thing is to let them know, watch our site on the 21st of December, because that's when this is going to open up.
And the only qualification is that they're eligible to hold a Wisconsin superintendent's license.
Yes, and that's pretty typical, because realistically, you will have candidates who are coming out of the principal ranks who are going to be in the process of completing their license. And you may have some that are taking their last classes. You may have some that are earlier in the process. But realistically, to hire a superintendent, they need to be enrolled in a program, but they don't need to have completed the program. They need to complete it within 2 years of taking the job. So it's very possible that your best candidate at the end of the day, the one that excites you the most, may not have his or her licensure completed yet, but you're just really, really impressed with a lot of other characteristics about that candidate. And we've had districts that say, oh, no, we've got to have somebody with a doctorate and 5 years of experience. All that does is it's like a funnel. It just continues to narrow that field down to the point where you don't have candidates.
Oh, so you're saying people put that under the qualifications?
They might put it under the qualifications.
Or 5 years of experience. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, we really encourage districts to not do that because we said, particularly in today's times, we're seeing, we're going to see, I think, a record number of superintendent changes this year. I've kind of been in touch with various sources. We could see between 80 and 100 superintendent changes this year, potentially. And so you want to have a broad field of candidates to look at, and you're going to want to look at some people that are looking at moving up in the administrative ranks, I think. As well as people that are experienced. And I don't know where they'll all come from. You never know where the candidate will come from, because it could be somebody who left the state and wants to come back because they grew up around this area and they just want to return to God's country. And Bangor is the perfect place for them to be. You're in a pretty good location. You're close to La Crosse, but you're rural. You're a separate community. It's a real neat community. You've got very attractive facilities. When I go by on the interstate, I always marvel at how nice those facilities look. You're a picture postcard from the interstate when I drive by and look at it and say, wow, what a nice set of facilities. And you got a new housing development at the same place. And there's a lot of things that make Bangor very, very attractive, I think.
Any other questions or comments for Guy?
Guy, this is Paul. I have a curiosity question. It's kind of not really too important here, but we were talking about when, the deadline, as you said, inevitably someone will apply at 2 minutes before the deadline at midnight.
Mhm.
We don't see application timing, submission timing, correct?
No.
Because I'm wondering if there's anything that can, through your experience, do you read anything into that?
No, realistically, some people are just maybe they're waiting for a late letter. Maybe they are just making sure that everything is absolutely right, and they wait till the last minute to push that button. The thing that can be embarrassing. I had a candidate for a district I was doing one time, and the candidate's materials were just impeccable. If he'd have only applied to the right district.
Oh,
And he was just consistent in all of his materials were submitted to the wrong district.
Oh my.
And the board had a big laugh over it. They ended up bringing him in for a first interview. And I think he was embarrassed that his materials were that bad, and he absolutely fell apart in the interview process. And when I called him the next day, he says, "Don't even bother." He says, "I already know how badly I did."
Paul, to add to your question, I know a female administrator from the state of Minnesota, and she applied like at 5 minutes to the hour. And her comment to me was, I didn't know if I really wanted the job or not.
Yeah.
I just waited till the last minute to say yes or no. And she ended up getting the job. So,
Yeah, again, it was more a curiosity of mine than anything. I'm sure it's not going to have anything to do with the quality of the candidate, but I was just curious if there was any kind of.
And the one thing, the board won't see any of the materials on the candidates until actually this closes. And we work with a service. It's called Revelis, is a software we work with. It was developed by the Ohio School Board Association. It's an electronic evaluation process, or an electronic application process. And a couple of days before applications close, you'll get an email from there indicating that the link will become live. So this thing will close at midnight on the 25th. And when you get up in the morning on the 26th, you'll be able to go in and you'll be able to look at all the application materials. And it's broken down kind of nicely, because there's a spot where you can look at just the transcripts, or you can go through and look at everything. And they're still revising things. There's still things about that site that don't work as well as I want, but all the material is there.
Did they use that for CISA, for the CISA 4?
They use that for the CISA one, so you've seen it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's
Yep.
nice.
It works nice, and the thing I like about it is that you can go in there and it's a searchable PDF, so you can look at each candidate. You can hop around to who you want to look at, and it's pretty nice. And I can send you along a kind of a ranking form that you can use to kind of make your own personal judgments about what you like about the candidates. That's something we've got in the district resource guide, and I can point that out. Just an Excel sheet that you can use for your own personal use.
All right. Any other questions for Guy? Comments, questions?
if we have community members for the focus groups, we're to email them to you, Julie?
Yes. And I'll compile them and get it to Guy.
Yep.
And if you can do it
And
as soon as
if anybody,
possible. Shelley already did. Paul has.
I
Anybody?
just sent mine. I just sent mine
Thank
to
you.
you, Julie.
Thank you. I haven't been on my email. Thank you.
It's okay. Did it before I forgot.
Thank you. Thank you.
And right here for anybody that needs, this is my cell phone number. If you need to reach me, there's also my WSB address. If you need to reach me by email, it's right here tonight. I'll leave the screen up. But the other thing is when the application gets posted later this week, that information will be there, so you can take it off there. Also, it's also on the WSB website. And my personal cell phone is my business cell phone, and so don't worry. If you call me, if I'm available, I'll take the call, and if not, leave a message and I'll call you back.
So just to summarize a little bit, Lori has an assignment with the students.
Yep.
And I do with the support staff and the staff for the community focus groups. We will report back to the board. And
You're going to send me the names of the confidential
staff, I'll do that right after the meeting, Guy.
Okay.
And anything else for a
Yeah, you're gonna vet the administration team.
I will vet that. I will do that immediately in the morning. I will do that. That's first on my list. And as a group, we meet, of course, our tomorrow meeting and our meeting, but as this search group, December 17th at 7 o'clock. Is that correct, everyone? December 17th at 7 p.m. Just want to wrap up, make sure we're all on the same page.
At that meeting on the 17th, we'll talk about the community involvement.
We can do that. Yep. Yep, we can do that. And again, I will, Julie, when I get done by tomorrow, I will send you 2 calendars. One that'll be kind of the board calendar that'll have the times and everything on it. The other one that'll be more that if you want to release it to whoever, it'll be the search calendar that'll have all the dates, but it won't have the times on it. Okay. And by the way, in terms of notices for the meetings and posting notices and all of those have already been sent to Jody. And as we have upcoming meetings, if she's got any questions on how to post, I'll be working with her on getting all the meetings posted correctly. Okay.
And those of you with those tasks, you're going to share the responses with all of us, correct? So
correct. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. I've got what I need, I think, to get started on this. I'm pretty enthused about it, and I hope that we can end up doing a real quality search and getting you the right candidate. So Julie, I will hear from you sometime tomorrow, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm going to email you today about the confidential staff, and I will email you right away about the administration. And then I'll work with the other groups. I'll send an email out as soon as I can so that we get a response back.
Okay, I'll be working in my home office all morning tomorrow, and I'll be gone in the afternoon for a few hours, but back in the evening. So if you don't catch me, I mean, just shoot me an email, leave me a voicemail. I will respond.
Yep, I have no doubt. Thank you, Guy. You have so far very timely.
Good. I'm glad that's working.
Questions? Any other questions, comments for Guy before we adjourn? Any other comments? Concerns?
I have one comment I'd like to make, and school board meetings haven't been a lot of fun lately. We haven't had a whole lot to look forward to. This COVID pandemic has made it miserable for everyone. I would just say that for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to tonight's meeting because this is an exciting process. And if we do things right, we won't do this again for a long time. And I, for one, am really, really excited about the path we're on. And I'm just going to say this. I'm reaching out to my fellow board members that we all please do our best to keep this positive and for the best interest of the entire school district, and take advantage of the good when we can, and not let personal differences cloud our judgment when it comes to this. So I hope that's the case. I think it's an exciting time, and I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And by the way, when we meet
Yes.
on the 17th for our focus group, I'll also try to have a mock-up of the community brochure, which I'll want you to kind of look through to see if we've done a good job of describing things about the school and things about the community. And if you've got anything you want to offer to be included in that, get a hold of Jody, because I'm kind of working with her on putting together the thoughts on that.
Yeah, please do that if anyone, whatever. Yeah, that's a great idea, Guy.
Yep, and again, we'll have that mock-up and we post that on the 21st. So if we need to make some modifications after the 17th, that's still possible. So I will, but I made a note here that I'll plan to have a mock-up ready for you by the 17th.
Yeah, we'd like to take a look at that.
Very good.
And be able to maybe edit it here or there.
Yep. And again, if between now and the 17th, if anybody is thinking about a particular question you would like to see asked as an essay question, I am open to your ideas. If you don't have any ideas on that, I will come up with some. But there again, if you've got a particular one you want, we're going to use it. We'll do 2 or at most 3 essay questions. Okay.
Thank you.
I have just one question. So the community members and the support staff and teachers, when will they be notified that they are on that committee and that they can seal that date in, because it's next week? When will they be notified?
Well, as soon as, well, no, Julie's going to start notifying teachers and support staff tomorrow. And she can let them know that if they want to be part of the support staff one. I think we talked about the support staff group being at 20 after 3 on the 16th.
Correct.
Teacher group being at 20 after 3 on the 17th. So she'll be able to let them know when she talks to them tomorrow. If you're interested.
Yeah, I will.
The
When I invite them to participate, Tina, I will tell them the date.
But you need to ask them if they're willing to volunteer.
Right. But
okay.
they're gonna look at the date and they're gonna see if it'll work for them. And then if they, we're on a tight time frame, no doubt about it. Any other suggestions?
I would just tell them, Julie, to, that you need that it is a tight turnaround and that you need to know by end of day Thursday. And that way you could notify everyone by Friday. If they are selected or whatever for the following Wednesday.
Yep, absolutely. That was my plan.
And as soon as I've got the community member names, then I will get, I'll work with Jody on that. I've got a email that can go out to the community members that will ask them if they want to participate. It'll tell them when we're going to do it. And then they can respond back either via email or by phone so that we'll know who needs to be invited. So we'll be able to get going on that one right away. And the student one will really be dependent on how quickly Lori can get some feedback on the student one, right?
I'm going to start drafting a message tonight to a couple people to help me.
I knew you would be.
I've sat at this computer all day. 15 more minutes isn't going to kill me. So I'll get that out and then hopefully I can get a list of what's available for student groups or whatever and start there. See if we have any, what do you call it? Like National Honor Society or the Student Council is what I'm going for. Sorry. Student council and stuff. And so I'm going to reach out to a couple people tonight and then hopefully maybe I can get something right away in the morning, but I'll keep you guys in the loop what I find out.
All right. And Julie, I'm going to send you a summary tomorrow of the things we covered tonight, the calendar. I'll send you the kind of the planning session sheet, just so I've kind of captured things. And if there's anything I've missed that any board member thinks I've missed, give me a call, send me an email.
And I will email that to everybody.
Yep. All right. Thank you for the time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy.
Yep.
Thank you, Guy.
All right. Thank you.
So moved.
Who was that?
Joni.
I'll second.
Paul.
Let Paul have it.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Paul, all in favor to adjourn, all in favor,
Aye.
Aye.
opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.